Welcome back to the MPLS lab training. In this video we're going to continue with our configuration, and this time we'll be setting up IPv6 for customer number 1. Let's go ahead and zoom in and look at what we'll be doing here. Alright, so we're going to be building up IPv6 to support customer 1. Customer 1 has a need for IPv6, and we're going to go ahead and configure the MPLS backbone in this video, and then also configure the PE to CE connections on the PE side. So specifically PE1 and PE2 will start peering BGP VPN v6 to support IPv6, and then we'll also set up the necessary routing for that. And then we'll also build the configurations for the PE to CE transport. So for example, PE1 to CE1A, we'll configure that on interface gig 01 and also set up the routing for that. And then we'll go ahead down to PE2 and we'll do the same thing for CE1B. Now, one thing that's important to understand here is that the MPLS backbone is running a technology called 6VPE. And what that is that's the IPv6 VPN provider edge. And so we actually don't run IPv6 across the backbone natively like we have using IPv4. So for example, you'll see here on PE1 that we have an IPv4 address of 10.0.0.1, and then down on PE2 we'll have an address of 10.0.0.2. Now we don't have any IPv6 addresses assigned for that peering because we don't need it. And that's actually one of the really nice things about MPLS, is where you can do IPv6 transport for customer networks without having to modify the backbone in any way or assign addressing there. So the IPv6 addressing, it is different than the IPv4 if you're familiar with that. It's in a hexadecimal notation. I've shortened it quite a lot to make it a lot easier to work with. However, it is a lot of address space. So we'll set up here. You'll see we got 2001:100::/126, and we'll have dot one and dot two there. And then down on PE2, we'll go ahead and we'll do the same thing for that link. So on CE1, you'll notice we've got the loopback again. We're going to assign an IPv6 address for a loopback. Again, this is just to emulate a customer network. We're not doing it on an SVI here because we don't have any endpoints connected on the backside, which means that SVI would not be up and it wouldn't work. So we just assign it to the loopback. We emulate exactly what a customer network would look like, and it works just perfect for our testing here. So let's go ahead and get to the command line now, and we'll start building our configuration. Okay, so we're on PE1 where we've left off as we finished all of the IPv4 layer 3 VPNs for the customers. We've built all the MPLS backbone. We've done all that work there. So we do still have a working MPLS backbone, and now we just need to go ahead and set up the IPv6 it's basically MPLS VPN v6 under the BGP address family. So let's take a look at the BGP configuration as it is right now. Alright, and you'll see here we've got VPN v4, and that's what MPLS is doing here. This is how we transfer the routes for IPv4, but we need to set that up for VPN v6. And what's really nice about this is it's easy because we've already got an MPLS backbone configured. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and start out simply by turning on IPv6 functionality on the router, and we do that by doing two commands. Turn on IPv6 unicast routing, that's needed. And IPv6 Ceph, that's also required for what we're going to be doing here. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up VPN v6 so that we can transport these routes. Just simply go into the address family. All right, we'll activate it and then allow it to send both communities. So if you look, the config is actually the same as we did here in VPN v4. So let's go ahead and look at the config again. So here you can see we've added the VPN v6, and it's exactly the same as what we had in our original one in the previous videos for VPN v4. So that's it's pretty simple right there. That's what we need to do on this side. We need to do it on the other side on PE number 2. So let's go over there now. go into the VPN v6 address family. And we'll go ahead and activate that, and we'll allow it to send both communities. Alright, so the way we look at this to make sure that it's up is the show IP BGP VPN v6 unicast all summary. It's kind of a long command, but it gives us what we're looking for here, and we can see that we do have this up now between PE1 and PE2. Our neighbor PE1's loopback 10001. He has 64512, and he's been up for a little over 20 seconds now. And that's exactly what we wanted to see. We can look at that from this side also from PE1 perspective, but he'll show similar. And there we go. So we can see that that's up. So that's basically all we really have to do to enable VPN v6 and IPv6 forwarding over the MPLS backbone. So the next step that we're going to work on is we're going to go ahead and configure the networking that goes between the PE and the CE. So here, looking at the diagram, we're going to go ahead and configure the gig01 interface with the IPv6 address. Then we'll go ahead and set up the BGP address family for IPv6 to actually peer with the customer. So we'll do this on PE1 and PE2. Alright, so let's go back to the command line. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is actually set up IPv6 for the VRF. So if you recall, when we set up the VRF previously for customer 1 and customer 2, we did it for IPv4. So in this case, customer 1 needs IPv6, so we're going to go ahead and activate that inside the VRF, and that's fairly easy. All we do is just type in address family IPv6 and go ahead and exit out. And that is all you need to do to activate it. So now you can see we have IPv6 enabled for the VRF. So here's the VRF, and IPv6 is enabled. There's actually no parameters we need to do under there, but we do need to enable it or it just simply won't work. So we're going to configure gig01. That's currently being used with IPv4. We just simply put an IPv6 also on this interface. Do that with the IPv6 address command. Okay, so if you look at the diagram, you'll see that's the address that's assigned to it. So that's how we put it in. We actually use the mask notation here as opposed to that long decimal because of the way that this works. So 2001 100::1 /126, that's going to be our IPv6 address on there. And we can run the show IPv6 interface gig01 to look at it. So we'll see it's enabled. It sets up a link local address. That's by default. That's just for communicating with the other side for doing some of the tasks that get used for IPv6 and what the routers need to do. And then there's our address. So it is up. It's ready to go for when we configure the customer's network. But now we're going to want to configure a peering session to be able to peer with the CE. So we're working still on our PE to CE configuration. So let's go ahead and build that. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the diagram. Okay, so what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be setting up a BGP session, and you can see here that we're going to be peering from ASN 64512 over to ASN 65000. So we'll go ahead and set that up. We'll be using the 2001:100::/126 network. Will be one on the PE1 side and two on the customer side, but as you know, we're just going to configure PE right now. So we'll go ahead and configure the one, and then we'll go ahead and do the same thing for PE2. So let's go back to the command line. Okay, and let's look at our configuration. Okay, so here we can see that we've got address family IPv4 for VRFC1. We'll need to set up an address family IPv6 for VRFC1. Okay, so the first thing we do, we just build a neighbor statement with the neighbor's IP address 2001:100::2 and specify the remote AS is 65,000. And the rest is very much like we've been doing for all the other customer PECE configs for BGP. Set a description. Go ahead and set a password. Five-second hellos and 20-second hold time. We'll allow it to send standard communities, and then we'll activate it. Then we're going to go ahead and advertise the network. It'll be the transport address between the PE and the CE. And there we go. Okay, so now you can see we do have our IPv6 BGP config for VRFC1, and this is what we'll be using to peer to the customer. So there it is right there. Save our changes. Everything we've just done now, we want to go ahead and we'll do that on PE number 2. Okay, just like we did before, we're going to go ahead and look at this here, the configuration. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and set up the VRF IPv6 for VRFC1. Okay, and there it is. We'll put the IPv6 address on interface gig01. Okay, and this one per the diagram is 2001:100::5. We'll look at the interface for IPv6, and we see we have a link local, and there's our address and the subnet. Okay, so let's look at the diagram here. And here's our diagram. So we're going to be working on PE2 or on PE2, and we're going to set up the BGP session over to CE1B. And so again, our AS is 64512, and we're going to be peering to 65001, and the network's 2001:100::4. We're going to be peering to 6 on this site. So let's go ahead and set that up. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our BGP config as it is right now. Okay, so you can see we have our IPv4 for VRFC1. So again, we're going to build like we did on the last one, an IPv6 BGP setup for VRFC1. Okay, we go into address family IPv6 VRFC1, and then we'll start building our configuration. We'll set a description. And we'll go ahead and set a password. Set our timers. We'll allow it to send a community. We'll go ahead and activate it. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and send the network also the transport. that will allow us to advertise that. Okay, so you'll see a pattern as we keep doing this. So the commands are very much alike what we're doing here. We got IPv4 address family for VRFC1, and we've also got address family IPv6 for VRFC1. And you'll see that it's always the same. We're advertising a network, whether it's v4, v6. We specify the remote AS, the description, the password, the timers. We activate it and we send a community. So it's always the same thing. Same thing with customer 2. We did the same exact thing for v4. And if we had other customers, we just keep doing the same thing. So it becomes very object-oriented almost, where it's the same type of configuration for each customer, just varies a little bit on the addressing or the description or so forth. All right, so let's save our changes here and just quickly recap what we've done. So we've basically set up PE1 and PE2 to peer BGP, VPN, v6. That's just to allow MPLS to transport the IPv6 addresses. It's basically the 6VPE configuration we talked about earlier. Then we configured the gig01 interface on both PE1 and PE2, and also prepared a BGP session for IPv6 to talk to CE1. So that's all we have to do on the PE. That was fairly simple. In our next video, we'll go ahead and configure the customer equipment on CE1A and CE1B, and then we'll go ahead and run some tests.